HUNK is a fan-favorite character with growing popularity, despite we've only seen him collecting the G-Virus sample for more than 2 decades.
Dr. Birkin, we're here to collect the G-Virus samples.
With almost nothing known about his past, not even his real name, it's no surprise he has become the Boba Fett of the Resident Evil franchise. The earliest information about HUNK is that he received training at the Rockford Island Military Training Center in 1996. He was carrying out special operations for 2 years, and since he was the only one to complete the return from these missions, he got the nicknames Grim Reaper and Mr. Death.
Once again, only you survived, Mr. Death.
That's how he became an infamous Umbrella Security Service operator. His success is based upon his personality, an out-of-touch, calculated, apathetic person who summarizes one of the worst incidents in the series, as it was a normal Tuesday.
Mission accomplished. The survival rate was 4%, and valuable human resources were lost. But that is war. The mission objective takes priority over everything else. Holding to that principle is why I have never failed a mission. The Death cannot die.
Sure, bro. His overall look is heavily inspired by the old Special Air Service and Navy SEAL VBSS uniforms, and apart from his main weapon, his signature style has stayed the same through the years. HUNK was brought into the main story in 1998, when he led Alpha Team to retrieve the G-Virus sample from William Birkin. From Umbrella's perspective, it was an obvious call to assign him with the task, but for the rest of the squad, it was a death sentence.
Pleased to work with you, Dr. Death.
You wouldn't be if you knew how I got that name.
This disastrous operation was called Nestwrecker, and it took place on the 22nd of September. This is probably the best documented event that exponentially got more confusing as the series progressed. It's been in 5 or 6 Resident Evil games so far, and apart from the inconsistencies, the more we saw of the event, the more incompetent Alpha Team looked. To cover the backstory in short, William Birkin was a lead scientist working for Umbrella. He developed the G-Virus and was planning to turn on Umbrella by selling the virus to the US military. Learning this information, Umbrella's answer was Operation Nestwrecker.
Now find Birkin and secure those samples. Failure is not an option.
What's certain is right before midnight, Alpha Team infiltrated Birkin's lab with either 2 or 4 operators. From here, things escalated quickly. Birkin resisted and was shot by Martinez, despite Umbrella's orders.
What the fuck were you thinking? Our orders were to bring him in alive!
Kirkpatrick checked Birkin's pulse, then collected the suitcase with the samples. Birkin survived.
You don't get away that easily.
Injected himself with the G-Virus and began to eliminate the USS members, starting with Martinez.
Alright, you freak! Eat this, you freak!
Kirkpatrick and the members of Bravo Team. At that point, Birkin's body was still recognizable, with the mutations mostly appearing on his right side, where he was shot. The G-Virus mutated to compensate for damage. The more damage Birkin took, the more uncontrolled mutations he had. HUNK, however, survived not only the confrontation, but laying face down into septic water for 6 days as well, and he secured the G-Virus sample too. He contacts the evac chopper pilot, Nighthawk. Then we take control of HUNK and head straight to the famous
My extraction point!
In the next 10 minutes, we experience the essence of being Mr. Death. HUNK is not just a soldier. HUNK is to perform under pressure. HUNK is to be loyal to a company. HUNK is to beat the odds and live up to the hype. HUNK is an agile person's wet dream. We rendezvous with Nighthawk.
Why'd you come back?
I wanted to meet the Grim Reaper.
And fly away before the city gets nuked.
Good job, team! Get ready for the next round!
It's unfortunate that Kirkpatrick couldn't feel Birkin's pulse because of his tactical gear. But if HUNK made it to the front gate of RPD in 10 minutes, then what the hell were Alpha and Bravo Team were doing in the sewers for 1.5 hours? I understand that by the time HUNK woke up, the doors had been unlocked, but it doesn't add up. In the original, everything happened instantly. Alpha Team were heading to the rendezvous point in 1 minute, and they were caught by Birkin.
Alpha Team, have you retrieved the sample yet?
Affirmative. We'll be at the rendezvous point in 1 minute.
Roger.
In the remake, they either played hide and seek, or got totally lost in the sewers. All things considered, it was a successful operation, if we ignore the fact that the contents of the broken samples were consumed by rats, infecting the city's water supply, essentially causing an outbreak in the city. Compared to the original, the remake showed a more human side of HUNK, instead of an emotionless machine who only cares about one thing.
The sample.
We could see him covering for his teammate.
We're in, sir. But we had a snafu. Target resisted. We had to take him out.
Capcom made him a more likable character. By adding a little twist, they kept his voice lines, but changed the context. For instance, in Umbrella Chronicles, we can hear Goblin 6, an injured USS member requesting help, over the radio, and HUNK's reply is anything but comforting.
Alpha team, Goblin 6, currently at point K-12 in the sewers. Can't move, requesting assistance. I repeat, requesting assistance. Don't leave me here! Ah!
This is war. Survival is your responsibility.
The same line is said in the remake, but this time, HUNK is speaking to Nighthawk, and rather than being an edgelord, he's much more relatable.
HUNK, time's up.
Go, Nighthawk. Get out.
I'm not gonna just
This is
leave
war.
you.
Survival's your responsibility.
God damn it.
This change of tone didn't come out of nowhere. It started in 2012 with Operation Raccoon City, which was the only game where we could interact and fight alongside HUNK in Umbrella's lab. He had a very limited screen time, but he was cooler than ever.
Come on! Birkin injected himself with the G-Virus. There's nothing you can do. Get out of here and make a full report to management.
What about you, sir? I lost the sample. I'm going back for it.
It's ironic that this was the only time when we saw him saving his squad, and it wasn't even canon. Speaking of squad, there was a mentor connection between HUNK and Vector, a USS Delta operator.
Vector here. Good to see you again, sir.
Vector's training was personally overseen by HUNK, and judging by his outfit, it's safe to say he was also a huge fan.
Sorry, we've got orders.
Unlike Nicholai Ginovaef, who was the biggest rival of HUNK, maybe because they were almost identical, Nicholai had also no problem sacrificing and leaving his men behind. He was also a highly trained professional, played darts as a hobby. Hell, even their appearance were similar. A confrontation between him and HUNK would have been awesome, if only he'd survived the nuke. After the Raccoon City incident, Alfred Ashford assigned HUNK with the task to deliver a large frozen capsule from the Umbrella transport base to Rockford Island. The capsule contained a BOW, more specifically, a Tyrant. According to HUNK's report, he had no idea what his team transported. It's also cute that he still has fond memories of the military training center, knowing it was bombed to the ground later on. It must have been heartbreaking for him. In 2003, the Umbrella Corporation went bankrupt, and HUNK became a mercenary. He created his own fighting style, called CQBZ. It stands for Close Quarters Quarantine Battle Zone, and as I've heard it, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.